Morning, glory, evening, grace, brethren, and sisters. Have everybody back on with us here with a word awakening with a brief special video here. Something I'm really excited about, to really enjoy talking about and doing, and giving you a list here of my 10 favorite theologians. I guess we could say theologians slash preacher writers or whatever, theologian being the professional term for that. And I'm doing this for really just kind of one big reason, and that's just to encourage everybody else to be a student of the Word of God. I guess a couple things. Be a student of the Bible, and kind of right in line with that is have a heart for revival. Because most of the people, really just, well, every single individual, something we're going to look at here today, as a person that had a heart for revival. Like some of these fellas, like I said, theologians, or perhaps, just as well known, maybe a little bit more well known for the books they wrote and commentaries and so forth. And so we're going to go through this list here. And most of these, well, for all of these, I do have at least one book, but I don't have that presently with me here. Here as lots of them. A lot of my books, most of my books are in storage. I still have a lot of books here that I'm still looking at. But what I have here is probably only about 20-25% or at the most of my library. A lot of these fellas here I'm going to mention, books are in storage, or they're actually under our bed, kind of way deep under our bed that I couldn't get out. But I got a book, though, or something for most of the people that I'm going to go over here. Going to give a little bit of a very brief, maybe biography or two of these individuals here. And so going ahead and getting started, I'll tell you, number one here is a fellow that is not nationally known. I'll just throw that out there. The rest of these certainly are. Number one, though, is not nationally known. He's only known among my, like what I am, independent fundamental Baptist mostly. There might be another person or two familiar with him, but just strictly independent fundamental Baptist for number one. And he's the only guy who's still living. The rest of these have all passed away. Been passed away for a little while now. And getting started here with number 10. Number 10, a fellow a lot of you are probably familiar with if you read commentaries, familiar with commentaries, Bible study software, and that's Matthew Poole. Matthew Poole. And I don't have a hard copy book of Matthew Poole, but what I have here is a Bible study CD, the Power Bible CD. And you can get Matthew Poole's commentaries on a number of different softwares. Can get them for free. Want to throw that out there. You can get lots of these for free now on studylight.org or even just on other Bible study apps. The Power Bible CD, like what I use here, is very inexpensive. It's only like around $10. And I have Matthew Poole's commentaries on this. One of my favorite writers, been one of my favorite writers for a while. Lived in 1600s, I want to say maybe 1600s or 1700s, but was of that time frame, but a very educated and a good fellow, good writer. And the next one up here, another fellow very well known for revival. I do have a number of his books. Don't have any of those right here presently with me, and that's R.A. Torrey. R.A. Torrey lived from about to the mid-1800s to 1928. I think he passed away early 1900s. Kind of was first a protege of D.L. Moody, but a really good writer. Wrote a lot about prayer and like revival, giving your life to the Lord. You can certainly learn a lot about the lifestyle. That's why why Brother Torrey and a number of these other fellas here, some of these other ones in the future, really on my top 10 list, not just because they were educated fellas and theologians, but because of the life that they lived. They really loved God. They gave themselves to prayer, gave God their time. They were here am I, send me, Lord. And were, a lot of these guys all over the world preaching, like Brother Torrey, just, letting God use them in a mighty way. And number 8, another fellow we also find on the, actually I'm not sure if he's on Power Bible CD or not. I know you can get his commentaries like free online, like on studylight.org, number 8. And that's John Gill. John Gill, another great writer, one of my favorite theologians, lived during the 1700s, was from England. He actually pastored the same church that Charles Spurgeon pastored. I believe when Dr. Gill pastored the church, that was known as New Park Street Church. Then by the time Charles Spurgeon was pastor in that church, that was called the Metropolitan Tabernacle. But John Gill, a very, very good writer, a very educated man as well, very, very intelligent, really enjoy his commentaries. And then number 7, a fellow here, when we talk about Talk about a great lifestyle, just a lifestyle of faith. A man who arguably showed faith more than anybody that I know of, have ever read about. And that was this fella here, and that is George Mueller. They're showing you his biography, because if there's just like 1, 2, or 3 biographies, that you're going to read, George Mueller ought to be one of them. Lived there in the 1800s, as many of you know, started those orphanages. He was born in Germany, then moved to England, started orphanages in England, and just lived off of faith for God to provide everything. Like, he didn't even go to churches for support, like missionaries do now. He just lived off of willing donations. And that's certainly why, the Lord used him in such a great, great way. Just a wonderful, wonderful man of prayer. Like, I know I have that book as well. I like Power in Prayer, like a book that he wrote. Phenomenal. Just showing, how God answers prayer. And one thing I can say about Brother Mueller was, whenever he was 90 years old, remember this was in the 1800s when it was very uncommon for people to even live to be 90 years old. But when he was 90 years old, though, there was a younger man who asked him, he said, like, Brother Mueller, how is it that you, being a man who only lived off of willing donations for the livelihood of your family and for all those children in that orphanage, how is it that you're 90 years old and still in such great physical health and mental health? And Brother Mueller said a couple things. Number one, I never knowingly did anything outside of God's will. Notice he said knowingly. Did I make mistakes? Yes, I did things against God's will, but that was out of my own ignorance. As soon as I did it, I got it right, started doing what the Lord wanted me to do. And number two, I prayed about every aspect of my life. How wonderful that is. Prayed about every aspect of my life. What does God want me to do today? What does God, want me to eat today? What do I need to do today with my time? I want there to be no idle time, there that God's not going to fill up in some way. And so certainly what a wonderful man there Brother Mueller was. And then number 6, this is actually one of the most recent fellows that we have. He has passed away in 1988. It's a preacher that you can listen to for free. Like on his website, another great writer, a great preacher as well. And talking about J. Vernon McGee. J. Vernon McGee, this is a book that he wrote on prayer. He's a fella kind of more known for the commentaries that he wrote. And as I said, being on the radio, like with his Through the Bible series, you can listen to that for free on his website on ttb.org. Through the Bible, ttb.org still, and just, listen to his Sunday sermons, and for his, Through the Bible, where he goes through the Bible in 5 years, Genesis to Revelation. As I said, also commentaries, went on for his commentaries, and I do have a number of his commentaries, but they're all in, I think they're all like either in storage or under my bed. I said also a man who's had a great impact on my life. Like I said, one of the more recent, a fellow you can still hear preach now, a very intelligent man, very good heart, a very good pastor and all as well, really good servant of God, Dr. J. Vernon McGee. And now going back to my Bible study software fellow who I know is on here as well, on Power Bible, and that is number 5, one of my favorite commentators, commentaries on the Bible, written there by Dr. Adam Clarke. Dr. Adam Clarke, he lived during the 1700s, was Irish, and a really good writer as well, really good theologian, the way he brings out words in Hebrew and Greek and so forth in his commentaries. Really, really good stuff there from Adam Clarke. As I said, one of my favorite theologians, one of my favorite commentators to read after. And next up here, number 4. Number 4, one of my favorite fellows, a little controversial. This fella here is what we would call an ultra-dispensationalist, so I certainly don't agree with all of his theology and everything that he wrote, but I really love him. Love his study Bible. Of course, I mentioned an ultra-dispensationalist and a study Bible. If you're familiar with theology and Bible study type things, probably know I'm talking about Dr. E.W. Bullinger. Dr. E.W. Bullinger, like you see here, this is one of his study Bible softwares has a number of the works that he has on there that I read after quite frequently. And as I said, also known for his companion study Bible. And I know I've mentioned that before. That's been a few years ago, like after we started Word Awakening. Like here, this is his study Bible. You see, I use this so much. It's very, very taped up. I have wore this Bible here out. Trying to kind of get to that opening. Trying to find a little bit of an opening page here if I can. Yeah, there we go. See, this is hard copy there called the Companion Bible. There by Dr. E.W. Bullinger, lived from like the mid-1800s to like the early 1900s as well. Like I said, not some people's cup of coffee, cup of tea, so to speak. As I said, I certainly don't agree with all of his theology, but much of it, though, is really good. Very, very, smart, intelligent. Like, you see how big, this Bible is. Like the notes, like in this Bible are endless. I mean, if like you see his appendix, and everything just goes pages, pages long. His introductions to the books of the Bible and everything, just really, really good with biblical languages. Like in Hebrew, Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic and stuff. Just good stuff there. So like I said, one of my favorites. Why I use this study Bible. Really love Dr. E.W. Bullinger. Number 3, another one of my favorites. If you listen to me, have listened to me anytime, especially if you know me pretty well. This is a guy who's going to be on my top 10 list. And a fellow who's had a big impact on me. It's kind of amazing how the Lord used this man when I was just first a teenager, a teenage preacher boy, and then also like when I was in the military, when I first got a heart for missions and for revival and everything. This was a preacher that God used a whole lot, who was a leader of the Second Great Awakening. Second Great Awakening, like in upstate New York. A fellow who, turned, much of the Northeast upside down for the Lord's honor and glory. Of course, talking about Charles Finney. I do have lots of his books. And I know I have a couple of them are way back under my bed. I was trying to get that for this video, but they were just kind of like too far down there. But lived, as I said, I was born like in the very, very late 1700s and then passed away like in the later 1800s, but a very great, very, very great man. Once again, a guy who had some wrong theology as well. Of course, you're not going to agree with everybody with everybody. So think about a lot of those guys from the 1700s and 1800s. They had different views on end times, than most of us do today. And so I certainly don't agree with all of Charles Finney's theology and things that he wrote. But the lifestyle also of the man, like we said about Brother Torrey, that was something that the Lord really used for me. How he gave himself to prayer, to fasting, was a student of the Bible, and everything. Just want to talk about having a revival, like we need here today in these end times, the last days that we're living in, and in the wicked society that we have, certainly we want God to raise up some more men like Charles Finney. And then another fella here, number 2. Probably know this guy's going to be on here as well. If you know me well, listen to me preach anytime. Another one of my favorites, kind of replicating a lot of things we said about Charles Finney, except this guy was a century earlier, one of the leaders of the First Great Awakenings, and just had a great lifestyle for the Lord. And, of course, talking about John Wesley. This is his notes on the Bible, his commentary, which I'm actually going through right now again. Certainly also one of my favorite commentaries, one of my favorite writers, like John Wesley. Kind of the whole package there. I love his writing style. And his book's got a number of his books. Like over here, I actually have some other stuff by him, like his sermons. And also, once again, the lifestyle. A man who was raised for that lifestyle. Like that's something I probably need to do, at least do a top 5 of my favorites, ladies of church history. And his mom would definitely up there, number 1. Number 2, Susanna Wesley, who raised her children for the Lord's honor and glory, like John's brother Charles Wesley wrote like a lot of hymns. And just a wonderful man, was raised that way as a student of the Bible, a man of prayer, a man who loved God. Once again, like I know Charles Finney, I said, was a century later. I know where he got a lot of his philosophy of revival and stuff was from John Wesley. And talking there about, a godly lifestyle, praying about every aspect of your life. That was, also certainly John Wesley, just lived a life there, such a great influence on me as well. And then number 1, this is the last fellow who's still living. He's still living now, an independent Baptist. And you know who I'm talking about if you do listen to me on a regular basis and know me. I use a lot of his books from my Bible Institute. And I guess because he is living now, kind of part of the reason, a couple reasons why he's number one. He's still alive today. And so he writes a lot of things also very relative, to our 21st century of living here today. And also because he is right on his doctrine. Of course, no, I'm not going to agree with this man or anybody else. I don't even agree with my wife and my daughter on every single, issue. But when it comes to, our, Bible doctrine, King James only, pre-trib, premillennial, eternal security, things of that nature. And, most everything, convictions, and everything. And also a lifestyle. Another reason why this man is number one. Very an intelligent man, but also the lifestyle. As well, that he lives giving time to God. And, of course, talking about Dr. David Cloud, who's now, in his early 70s. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's 73, 74 years old. A missionary in Nepal still. And this is his, as you see, the Way of Life encyclopedia, like of the Bible and Christianity. And a really good resource there. A number of books that he's written as well. Great thing also about Dr. David Cloud is you can get a number of his books for free on his website, wayoflife.org, wayoflife.org. Has a multitude of ebooks that you can get for free. Really good stuff there. Like I said, writes a lot of good things pertinent at our 21st century, like things that I often mention and preach about, that we deal with today, like sports idolatry. Because that was one thing about people like John Wesley and Charles Finney, who lived in the 17 and 1800s. They didn't have all the distractions, that we have. They lived before the time of television and a lot of things of that nature. And but David Cloud, really good writer, like on those things, and also just like on the Bible, has now written a number of commentaries, Bible study books. Like we have here the encyclopedia, his encyclopedia, and so forth. And certainly also had a great influence on my life. Since I was a teenage preacher boy, I certainly appreciate the ministry of Dr. David Cloud and what he stands for. Amen. Certainly a great theologian, a great preacher, a man with the right heart that is living in the 21st century. Somebody that you don't see a group of people you don't see very often in our time. And so thanks so much for being here. Actually went a little longer than I thought, but thoroughly enjoyed it. I love talking about those things. And we're going to do a couple more of these. Like I might do my 10 favorite Bible characters. Like I said, might do a little thing, at least try to have 5, Christian ladies that we can look at. And maybe also something else I'm going to do, like I mentioned, like David Cloud as well. Should also mention that. He has a number of free videos as well of him preaching and like doing Bible conferences, something that he does. Has a number of those things. Like on his website. I highly recommend 21 Steps for a Stronger Church in the 21st Century. I wanted to mention that right there. He has, you can get that as a free ebook, and that's also on his website, like a preaching series that he did in the Philippines of a Bible conference as well. And so what I was about to say was something else I'm probably going to do is my top 10 favorite preachers, top 10 favorite preachers to listen to. Like as well, because I know a lot of, obviously, the older guys like John Wesley and Charles Finney, you can't listen to those guys, but there's still some like J. Vernon McGee and a couple of others, that we'll mention from the mid-1900s and on up, who you can listen to on sermonaudio.com and things of that nature. And so thanks so much for being with us here. Hopefully this was a help and a blessing to you. I got any questions about any of these men or any Bible study resources, even if that's somebody that I didn't mention, like an old preacher or somebody that, you might want some information on. I know most of them, who have written books and so forth. Happy to answer any questions that you might have, help you with anything. Don't ever hesitate to email me and ask me. Contact information is below. And thank you so much for being with us here today. And we'll see you next time. Until that, everybody from the shallows flee away. I am Dr. Coop, and I love you, and I appreciate you.